Recently, a delegation went down to Honduras to explore the root causes of migration. 4 organizations sponsored it: Share El Salvador, Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, and the Sisters of Mercy. Representatives from these 4 sponsoring organizations were Jose Ortega, Reverend Deborah Lee, Sister Ann Schultz, and Jean Stockham. The focus of the delegation was to explore the question, why are so many people migrating, in this case from Honduras, north to the Mexican-U.S. border? It was a large delegation. We were about 75 people. But for half the time, we were divided into 3 groups. One of those groups stayed in San Pedro, one of those groups went north, and another group went a little bit southwest to Santa Barbara, and the north and the south group met in the state capitol at one point. Except for Marianne Brody, this was the face of the Mercy contingency. While we all didn't travel together, we were in different groups. Marianne Brody was most helpful to Nancy Donovan and myself in terms of helping us to get over to Casa Corazon and to see Sister Sandra Hernandez and her co-worker Ashley, and the fine facility that they run there for children who are HIV and AIDS positive. It's a lovely facility. And it was the first introduction, you might say, to me in terms of some of the disturbing images. On one wall in one of the back rooms, like a utility room, there used to be a window, but they closed it up because there were so many stray bullets flying in the neighborhood that they were afraid someone was going to be injured. Honduras is a country of rivers. The people of Honduras are a people of the rivers. Their lives, their culture, their music, their activities, their life depends on the life flow of the rivers. We drove through rivers, we drove over the rivers, we were on wooden planks over the rivers, we had crosswalks over rivers. This is a piece of artwork from the Casa Corazon. They are also a people of the land. And according to the stories that we heard from people in small villages to the cities and towns that we visited, the water rights and the land rights are being confiscated by a small group of people with a lot of power and a lot of money. And this includes also multinationals, of which United States corporations are a part of as well. And what's happening is people are being displaced. Their water, the rivers, are being polluted in exchange for the building up of mining industries. And the lands are being confiscated. People are being displaced, and communities are being broken apart. One of the things that stands out for me about this experience was the intergenerational focus on protecting the water, the land, and the community. It was front and center, and it unites people. And these are people who have very, very little. And time again, no matter where we went, people said, we don't want to have to travel to the United States or someplace else. We want to stay in our communities. We want to stay with our families. And we certainly don't want to travel someplace where we're going to be looked down upon or run the risk of being incarcerated. They want to stay home, but they want clean water. They want an opportunity to continue to own their land and to work their land and to have opportunities for their children. They're not against development, but they want to be able to develop in a way that it's good for all the people and that it's good for the land and their rivers. One of the important activist outlets in Honduras is called Radio Progreso, and it was started by the Jesuits. And indeed, there is still a Jesuit who is running it, and his name is Padre Ismael Marino, also known as Pablo Melo. It was through the good work and really courageous work of folks who work at Radio Progreso and through the connections of the folks who put together this delegation that we were able to hear the stories of folks who are themselves on various hit lists because they are advocating for human dignity, the clean water, water rights, and land rights. Some of them have lost members, they're members of their family who have been killed. There are people that you see in these pictures, some of whom have to get out of Honduras, otherwise they themselves will be killed. Since the coup in 2009, the teachers' pension fund has been plundered. It no longer exists. As we were traveling, at no point did I experience any Honduran say, "We don't want you here, go home." They knew that we were there supporting them and that our presence there, one of the reasons for the large delegation, was that our presence there helped to provide them safety. And they were very clear in terms of women being central to this, to the movement of Honduras going forward, and that it had to be a revolution that had feminist principles. And so feminism is not just a North American occupation. It's alive and well in Honduras. Monsignor Romero, as he is known today, is an increasingly important figure in terms of the spirituality of the people of Honduras. And that's true for Protestants as well as Catholics. He's a figure that represents someone who stood with them and who defended them and who gives them a sense of hope and identity somehow. The kind of hope that they have is not a sugary, saccharine kind of hope. They know the dangers. They live them on a daily basis. But what they were asking of us is that when we come back to the United States, will we work with our powers that be to look at the ways that we are complicit, that the way that we are contributing to the need for people in Honduras to actually have to leave Honduras in order to be safe, in order to have a life, in order to protect their kids. So what are the ways that we give funding to Honduras? How are those funds actually spent? how do those funds actually get to the people? Or are they contributing to the further militarizing of Honduras? Some of the funding that we give is actually good. Some of the funding that we provide is actually not helping at all, and it's contributing to the problem. And this is the kind of work that they're asking us to do and to be voices for.